You've heard his footsteps in 100 legends. You've seen the hood, the axe, the whispered fear that followed him like a shadow. But the real life of a medieval executioner was never a monster's tale. It was a human one, complicated, lonely, and carved by duty rather than desire. Tonight, we walk into that life, not as spectators, but as him. This is your story, your life as an executioner in the Middle Ages. It begins on an ordinary spring afternoon, the kind where townsfolk gather at the market, children chase each other between barrels, and sunlight warms the stone walls of your village. You are 14, and the prince's messenger arrives on horseback with a parchment sealed in red wax. Your father asks for quiet, but the street has already fallen silent. Few things are more terrifying than a royal decree. The messenger reads aloud.
By order of the prince, you are hereby appointed executioner of this district, to serve in matters of law, justice, and punishment.
Your father doesn't move. Your mother grips your shoulders. A ripple of murmurs travels through the crowd. Not sympathy, not outrage, something between pity and dread. Because everyone knows what this means. In the 16th century, people rarely chose this profession. Historian Joel Harrington notes in The Faithful Executioner that many executioners were appointed by force, chosen by rulers who believed chance determined their fate. Your appointment is no honor. It is a sentence. You are now marked. Executioners could not refuse their role. Those who did risked punishment, exile, or worse. And as the messenger turns his horse, you notice a smear of something dried on his boot. Brown, flaked, the kind of stain that only comes from old blood baked into leather. Your childhood ends with the sound of the prince's seal cracking open. Your new life begins under a shadow you never asked for. Years pass, and training begins the way it did for real executioners, such as Franz Schmidt. Like him, you start small. First on objects, bundles of hay, wooden mannequins, hanging carcasses. The blade thuds, splinters, shivers through straw. Then on animals, chickens, goats, pigs. Their bodies jerk when the steel meets bone. There's a wet snap, a hot metallic scent that sticks to your clothes long after dusk. And then, one day, your father brings you a stray dog. A trembling thing with ribs showing, its eyes cloudy but pleading, as if it somehow understands what you were born into. It whimpers when you touch its fur. Your stomach knots. Your hands shake. But your father's voice is flat.
Do it, or the prince will find someone who can.
You steady your grip. You breathe. You swing. The blade doesn't glide. It tears. There's a crack, a choking yelp, then a sudden, awful stillness. Warm blood splashes across your wrists, thick and sticky. Your father nods once, not in pride, but in resigned approval. You have passed. Some sources suggest executioners needed this level of precision because a single mistake could mean disaster. A failed execution could end your life. Your father tells you of one executioner in a nearby town who misjudged his strike. The blade struck bone, not neck. The crowd roared. They dragged him from the scaffold, beating him with stones and fists. By sundown, he was alive, but barely. Authorities later imprisoned him for incompetence. You learned this lesson early. Clean, precise, never hesitate, and never miss. It is not strength they train into you, but accuracy. And the cost of inaccuracy is blood. Sometimes the prisoners, sometimes the executioners. People imagine the hood as a symbol of cruelty. In truth, It is a shield. You receive it on the morning of your first official execution. The fabric is rough, heavy, stiff with dried sweat from previous wear, and dyed in dark charcoal to hide stains no soap will ever fully remove. You pull it over your head, and suddenly the world becomes a tunnel. You can smell the cloth. You can hear your own ragged breathing. You can feel your heart punching at your ribs. You hear your father's voice piercing the haze, low and cold.
Remember, this hood is not protection for you. It is a promise to them. A promise that the law will strike, not your anger.
But you cannot be seen. Historically, hoods served two purposes: to protect executioners' families from revenge, to ensure the executioner was seen as an agent of the law, not a man with personal motives. Your identity disappears under the mask. Your humanity goes with it. A prisoner moans somewhere below the scaffold. You taste the copper of fear on your tongue before the blade even touches his neck. Your father whispers, almost inaudible,
Hesitate, and it will be your neck next.
"This is the first lesson of your profession. It is easier to do what must be done when you are no longer yourself." You nod, though he cannot see. The hood has swallowed your reflection, your conscience, your name. Only the executioner remains. The town square is already full. Merchants, beggars, children sitting on rooftops, all crowded to witness the spectacle that medieval society believed preserved order. A boy kneels beside an overturned cart, fingers curled in fear around the wooden leg. You match his age so closely that for a moment your breath falters. You feel nothing like the monster the crowd imagines. You feel something worse. You feel seen and unseen at the same time, visible only as a function, invisible as a human. The condemned man is brought forward. Your hands tighten around the sword. The blade waits, cold and impersonal. The priest mutters a prayer. The crowd chants louder.
Filth, wretch. He deserves this.
The sky seems to hold its breath. Your arm does not tremble. One stroke, clean, final. A murmur passes through the crowd, part relief, part horror, part approval. Your stomach twists, but your face remains hidden under the hood. And then it happens. Someone spits at your feet. Executioners were necessary, but they were also considered impure. Many lived at the edge of town, barred from entering homes, taverns, even churches. Some schools refused to accept their children. You feel that rejection settles into your bones. It will never leave. You live in a small house on the town's edge, the place where wind seems colder and footsteps seem quieter. Your neighbors avoid your gaze. Children fling stones at the fence as you pass. Vendors whisper insults under their breath. Even the dogs on the street shrink back from your shadow. No one invites you to celebrations. Yet you hold privileges that common people envy. Free lodging, exemption from taxes, a portion of market goods, known as havage, a salary paid by the authorities. On paper, you are compensated. In reality, you are alone. Your job extends far beyond executions. Some sources suggest executioners disposed of bodies, administered torture during interrogations, oversaw the punishment of thieves, and maintained tools like swords, ropes, and wheels. These tasks leave stains you cannot wash away. Stains on your hands, your clothes, your reputation. Your arms ache from the repeated swings. Your neck stiffens from hours spent leaning over the condemned. Your fingers never quite forget the shape of the rope. But you do them with precision and without emotion. Sometimes you think bitterly.
I am richer than the baker, but lonelier than the dog I killed in training.
One winter night, a woman knocks at your door. A trembling, frantic tapping. You open the door. Her breath fogs in the cold night air. Her hands shake violently as she clutches her sick child to her chest. Even as she whispers, her eyes refuse to meet yours.
Please.
Her voice cracking.
I have nowhere else to go. They said you might know how to help him.
Executioners in medieval Europe often practiced rudimentary medicine. Knowledge of anatomy, learned for death, became a strange, unspoken source of healing. Franz Schmidt himself treated hundreds of patients, more than he executed. Tonight, you do the same. She crosses your threshold like someone stepping into a lion's den. Her eyes flick around your home, the shadow of the sword in the corner. She pulls her child closer, whispering under her breath, not meant for you to hear.
God protect us.
You grind herbs, cool the child's forehead, and mix bitter medicine. But the moment your hand brushes his skin, the woman recoils, not out of malice, but instinct. Still, she forces herself to stay. She needs you more than she fears you. That is the cruel truth of your life. As you work, a memory flashes. The boy's shallow, fluttery breathing is the same rhythm you once heard from a condemned man moments after the blade fell. That last involuntary gasp the body gives before stillness. You shake the memory away. Focus. Heal. Tonight, death must stay outside your door. Hours pass. By dawn, the child wakes, blinking, sweating, alive. His first breath of morning feels like a tiny miracle. The mother falls to her knees, sobbing in relief.
Thank you,
She cries, and when she gathers her child to leave, she wipes the place where your hands touched him. You saved a life, yet remain untouchable. This is the paradox of your existence. You are feared for the deaths you give, and needed for the lives you save. Both truths coexist. Both truths weigh on you. And as the door closes, you whisper to the empty room.
I can keep death from others, but never from myself.
Years pass. Your hands grow calloused, your shoulders heavy, your steps slower. But the emotional wounds cut deepest. You write them down, not for sympathy, but for clarity. Some executioners kept diaries, and these writings reveal surprising humanity. Schmidt's journals, for instance, mention guilt, sorrow, and prayer. In your diary, you record the thief who thanked you for a quick death, the murderer who begged for forgiveness, the young girl accused of witchcraft whose eyes held no hatred, the father who asked you to deliver his son swiftly. But there is one entry you can never turn the page on, the one you rewrote 3 times because your hands were shaking. A young man, barely 20, condemned not for murder or theft, but for speaking against a baron. He knelt before you, trembling so badly his chains rattled louder than the crowd. When he lifted his face, there was rain in his eyes, or maybe tears, and he whispered,
"Please, my mother is watching."
You told him as gently as the hood allowed.
I will make it fast.
But he broke down, sobbing, choking on fear, and for a moment you hated yourself. The last thing he said before you raised the sword was,
"Tell her I didn't scream."
You never did. And the scream he held back still echoes louder than all the ones that came after. You remember every face. Some nights you wake sweating, hearing the voices of those you executed. Other nights you feel nothing at all. You live in the tension between justice and compassion. You were forced into this role, yet you try to carry it with honor. It happens on a summer afternoon. The man is strong. Too strong. He lunges as you raise your blade. The crowd gasps. Your sword slips, landing not cleanly on the neck, but glancing across the shoulder. A scream tears through the square. You regain your footing, swing again, fast, decisive, and end it. The silence that follows is the loudest sound you've ever heard. You face the crowd, hood dripping sweat. Someone shouts,
Incompetent.
Another hurls a stone. You do not look up. You do not speak. You walk away, aware that for the first time, you are not merely shunned. You are despised. That night, you sit with your sword in your lap and consider leaving, disappearing, running. But you know you cannot escape the title stamped onto your name. So you sharpen your blade, and you continue. You grow older. Your children learn to avoid the marketplace, where whispers follow them like dust. Schools reject them. Neighbors watch them. And so, with the authority you've gained over decades of impeccable performance, you do something that few executioners dared. You petition the court. Just as the real Franz Schmidt did at the end of his life, you request that your children be freed from the stain of your profession, that the cycle end with you. You expect refusal. Instead, after weeks of silence, a letter arrives. Your children are granted freedom. They may choose their own futures. You cry, truly cry, for the first time in years. Not from sorrow, but from release. The hood ends with you. At 71, your hands tremble, not from fear, but from age. You hold the hood one last time, running your fingers over its frayed edges. The town has changed. You have changed with it. Some still avert their eyes, but others nod respectfully. Justice is harsh, but justice was needed. On the morning you retire, you walk through the square without the hood. The sunlight feels new on your skin. For decades, you were the faceless arm of the law. Today, you are simply a man. The scaffold behind you stands empty, and for the first time in your life, you feel light. Executioners were not monsters. They were men bound by duty and order. You were never just an executioner. You were the final heartbeat of a justice no one wanted to touch. A shadow carrying the weight others refused to see. And behind every hood is a human being the world rarely sees. When your story ends, the echoes of your mercy will outlive the fear of your blade.